Hello and welcome to Big Dash Knows. Big Dash knows what? New York Giants football. Let's go. You see the thumbnail, no hesitations. You see the thumbnail. We're talking about the wide receiver room. This is going to be a wide receiver room review, preview, training camp preview, whatever you want to call it, whatever category it falls in. We're talking about the New York Giants wide receivers. Now, before I start getting into some of these players, I just want to talk about the situation. The Giants wide receiver room is both unknown and then highly anticipated. One thing that a lot of people have been saying about the New York Giants for a long time is that they have no playmakers. You know, there's a lack of talent on the New York Giants roster. Well, I'm going to say this right now. There is no lack of talent in the wide receiver room. I believe there's 13 wide receivers right now on the roster going into training camp on a 90-man roster. And unlike a lot of previous years, they might even cut some good players this year when we get it down to the 53. It's going to be some players that you're like, man, I hope I can get this guy on the practice squad. That's the difference between, you know, this year's roster, this season's roster, and rosters from the past. And I like what this wide receiver room is looking like. Again, I guess the main theme of the New York Giants is the unknown, because you have a lot of guys in various positions, Pauls, that we don't quite know exactly what we have with them yet. And when you look at the wide receiver room, it's pretty much the same. Now, how many wide receivers do the New York Giants keep on the 53 at the end of the day? You know, once it's cut down in September. You know, some people want to keep 8 wide receivers, 7. I'm in that range of 6 wide receivers, 6 to 7, no more than 7, because you can't keep taking away from other positions on the field. So even though we might have a lot more names, a lot more talent to pick from with the wide receivers, I still think because of all the holes around the rest of the team, you're probably only keeping 6 to 7 wide receivers, 7 max in my opinion. But without further ado, let's start getting into this wide receiver room review. First name on the list is the guy that had no stats last year because he didn't play in the NFL. He played in college, and that's Malik Nabers. He is the one that's given New York Giants fans the most excitement. We know what he can bring to the table. Arguably, probably the best wide receiver in the class if Marvin Harrison wasn't in there, and he actually had a better year in college than Marvin Harrison. So you have Malik Nabers, who's an explosive playmaker. Again, a lot of people keep talking about the New York Giants don't have playmakers. Well, we know for a fact, and again, I know we have more than one playmaker on the team, but we know for a fact now from the outside looking in that the New York Giants have at least one bona fide playmaker. And again, he's coming out of college. This is going to be his first year in the NFL, but when we see wide receivers that come out, no matter what round in and make instant impacts in the NFL, we seen it with Puka Nacua last year. Almost was the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Like, there's no excuses. These wide receivers come out of college ready to go day one. That's just how it is right now. And seeing that, and now knowing that we have Malik Nabers on the squad right now, there's no excuse for us not to get this man the ball and let him do his thing. So that's Malik Nabers. I'm going to keep it very short and brief on Malik Nabers. Again, we don't know what he is yet, but we have a good idea of what he could be. And I'm liking, that pickup by the New York Giants. Now let's get into, this roster, right? Let's get into this wide receiver room. Number one on my list. It's not going to be any surprises, Darius Slayton. Probably one of the most disrespected players on the New York Giants. Yes, one of the most disrespected players on the New York Giants. I was in the spaces yesterday arguing. I had somebody say that Darius Slayton just flat out sucks. And that's not rooted in reality. He might not be what you want him to be, but he definitely doesn't suck. Is he a wide receiver one? He hasn't proven to be a wide receiver one, and I guess in comparison to what the NFL is. But for the New York Giants, he's been the most consistent player since he's been here. Now, just some of the stats on Darius Slayton. This is just from 2023. He has 76 targets, 50 receptions, 769 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Okay. Now, if he was a wide receiver 2, nobody would bat an eye. But he was our wide receiver 1. Now, here's the other thing. He was averaging 15.4 yards per catch. That puts him 16th on the list of wide receivers per catch last season. And this is off of 76 targets. So you can't tell me if you got Darius Slayton more targets, his numbers wouldn't be better. That's the big difference. When you look at the list of wide receiver rankings per target, the wide receiver ones out there, like a guy like CeeDee Lamb with over 180 targets, I think you can go down the list. I'll throw it up. You see like the top 20 wide receivers per targets. These guys are doubling what Darius Slayton is getting. And again, you might not view him as a wide receiver 1, but to the New York Giants, he was our wide receiver 1. 76 targets. That means we're not getting the ball out enough. And again, there's a lot of reasons that go into that, but I'm talking strictly about the wide receiver room, the talent that we have in comparison to what the rest of the league is doing. 76 targets, 50 receptions. So his overall grade was a 67.5. Receiving grade was 68.2. Again, those are just regular numbers. But for a team that only has 6 wins, it is what it is when it comes to that. Now, Darius Slayton this year, the last year of his current contract, he went into the offseason with a little bit of contract dispute. They ended up giving him a little bit of incentives, to try to make him happy, and we'll see what happens this year. But Darius Slayton, in my opinion, until he's superseded by Malik Nabers, he's still wide receiver 1. Now, Malik Nabers is the star player. He should get more targets. But and I also think that Malik Nabers opens it up more so that Darius Slayton can do what he does best. Again, that's yards after the catch and things like that. He's a big playmaker, and a lot of people shouldn't get that confused. Now, second on my list is Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson, gadget guy, slot receiver, shifty, quick, fast. Had a little bit of a breakout last year, or I should say had some flashes last year of what he could potentially be. And he even got a shout out from the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. Wan'Dale Robinson, when you got people of people that can talk highly of you, and it's a division rival, and he's not even talking about the defense, he's talking about another wide receiver on the New York Giants. That's a good look. That's a good shout out. But Wan'Dale Robinson is sneaky, explosive, shifty, yards after the catch. And I actually thought his yards after the catch would be a little bit more than what he had. But I like Wan'Dale Robinson. I like him as, the third option in this offense. Again, we talk Malik Nabers, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson. That's why I have it right now today. Wan'Dale Robinson, change of pace. I keep throwing out what I think of Wan'Dale Robinson. He's a lot of things, and he is a shorter guy, 5'8", 175 pounds, but he's built pretty well. He's pretty strong too. I like what he can bring to the table. So just looking at him, he also in 2023 had 76 targets, and that kind of surprised me too, because he had the same number of targets at Darius Slayton. But not only that, he had 60 receptions. So he also had 10 more receptions than Darius Slayton. But he only had 525 yards and 1 touchdown. So what that tells me is that there wasn't a lot of yak in those, in those receptions. Could it be ball placement? Could it be him getting out of bounds? This, that, and the third. He averages 8.8 yards per catch, and then about 4.9 yards after the catch. So, it is what it is with Wan'Dale Robinson. As he continues to grow, as he continues to get better, as they continue to add him to the scheme, I think his numbers will go up. But he's pretty much where I think he should be on a year-to-year basis. Now, can he take that number from 525 yards to maybe 700 yards this year? That would be fantastic if he did something like that. And when I look at Darius Slayton, again, his touchdown total was 4 touchdowns. Wan'Dale Robinson touchdown total was 1 touchdown. Like, I need Darius Slayton to double his touchdowns. I need Wan'Dale Robinson to like quadruple. And he also gives you something in the running game too, because he is a gadget guy. So just looking at the overall grades for Wan'Dale Robinson, I got 65.5 overall. Receiving grade was 67.0, and then a rushing grade of 68.9. Now, last year, you can consider him as a gadget guy that you line up in the backfield, but with the addition of Tyrone Tracy being that guy that can be a versatile running back and then a wide receiver option, I think that part goes away from Wan'Dale Robinson. You might still see some jet sweeps and stuff like that, but seeing him lined up in the backfield probably won't happen at all. And I think it's better that way. But I like Wan'Dale Robinson. I think he's one of those guys that can be a breakout player this year. But it is what it is, man. Again, the thing about the New York Giants is it's all about the unknown stuff. There's playmakers on this squad. It's just that they're not getting the ball enough, man. And again, there's a lot of things that go into that. Next on the list is Jaylen Hyatt. Jaylen Hyatt. You guys have seen the hat before. Hyatt is open. I've had this discussion with a lot of people. I've argued and debated with a lot of people about it. But to me, I feel like Hyatt was open a lot last year. And just looking at Jaylen Hyatt's stats. So he was, in 2023, he had 40 targets, 23 receptions, and 373 yards, 0 touchdowns. We already know what it is. We saw that big touchdown in preseason. I think it was Tyrod Taylor that dropped the dime on him, and he did the meditation in the end zone. His overall grade was 59.7. Receiving yards was 58.5. I'm sorry, not receiving yards. Receiving grade was 58.5. Not good enough. Now, last year around this time, I did my prediction of what I thought Jaylen Hyatt could do, and I had him roughly about 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Well, we got about 373 yards and 0 touchdowns, and that's a letdown. And that's a letdown for a lot of reasons. But when you look at his targets, 40 targets and only 23 receptions. I wish there was a breakdown that I can find all of his targets, but we remember a lot of times that he was targeted, the ball was either, it was just taking a chance, ball sailed out of bounds. He did have, I think he had 4 drops last year or 5 drops last year. I got to throw that stat up. But man, when you look at what he did in college, everybody knows he's the speed guy. He's taking the ceiling off. When you add Malik Neighbors, again, we keep putting, I keep mentioning Malik Neighbors and what he can do for himself, but also what he can do for the rest of the team. I think Hyatt has the chance to actually really have a breakout season. Again, I keep saying this about these players because just think about some of these names. We know what Darius Slayton is. Wan'Dale Robinson flashed. Jaylen Hyatt, we saw what he can do in college, and we saw glimpses of him in the Cardinals game. I think it was also in the Green Bay game where he can get deep. He's that deep threat. And we don't know what's going to happen with Darius Slayton after this year. We need Jaylen Hyatt to be able to step up, but we also need him, to develop the full route tree. I'm not going to sit here and talk like he's fantastic, but knowing what he can do and seeing that he's working on his craft, his route running and stuff like that, he did get stronger. He did put on a little bit of weight. He won't let us know how much weight yet, but you can see it in the development of his body. But all these guys need more targets, like 76 targets for your wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 with Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson last year. It's not enough when you got guys, true number ones, that are getting almost 200 targets. And, for me, I think the more targets these guys get, the better it's going to be for these guys. And then the last guy I want to go into details with is going to be Isaiah Hodgins. For me, Isaiah Hodgins had a down year last year with the expectation of what he did in 2022. He's one of those possession type receivers. He's a chain mover as well. Not the fastest, but he does get good separation. And he is reliable when it comes to, hands, not dropping the ball a lot. His role decreased tremendously last year. Again, we had, Daniel Jones, we had Tyrod Taylor, we had Tommy DeVito. A lot of these guys, it was musical chairs on the offensive line. Again, a lot of factors going into why these guys didn't perform up to par last year. And Isaiah Hodgins, to me, I feel like to the fan base, Isaiah Hodgins is expendable. I like Isaiah Hodgins still. I like what he brings to the table. We brought in Allen Robinson, we brought in Miles Boykin, but I just like the upside of Isaiah Hodgins a little more than those guys. And to me, Isaiah Hodgins, he could be, will he be a surprise cut to me? No, because I understand what it is. Do I consider him on the roster bubble? Possibly. But when I look at his relationship with Daniel Jones and his certain skill set, being a possession receiver, the size, the weight, and stuff like that, I think he still has some value for the New York Giants. And to me, his 2023 stats were 32 targets, again, 21 receptions, 230 yards, but he also had 3 touchdowns. So he, as far as touchdowns go, he was second on the list, just behind Darius Slayton on receiving touchdowns out of the wide receiver room. And it's, like I said, he still shows you that he can be a red zone threat and all that stuff. I like Isaiah Hodgins. Don't give up on Isaiah Hodgins just yet. And then last, just talking about the depth of the team. So just look at these guys. It's a 90-man roster. Again, 13 wide receivers on the team. We have your top 5 guys in Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jaylen Hyatt, Isaiah Hodgins. Now look at some of these other names, man. And it's going to be hard for these guys to make the team. Bryce Ford Wheaton is one of them. Is one guy that a lot of people are high on. Miles Boykin, Allen Robinson, Isaiah McKenzie, who we brought in. He's familiar with Brian Dable in this system. Gunnar Olszewski last year, helped us out tremendously in the receiving game and special teams, but he has an injury as well. And if you have a guy like, if it's going to be between Gunnar and Isaiah McKenzie as far as being a returner, we'll see what happens. I think those guys possibly are fighting for a spot. And that's why I say, we got the top 5 guys. Then we're going to have that special team guy who's going to be the returner. If it's not Tyrone Tracy or, somebody outside of the wide receiver room. But then you got guys like Dennis Houston, John Giles, Chase Cota, and Ayer Asante. Ayer Asante is a guy that I hope we can get on the practice squad. Bryce Ford Wheaton. So just want to talk about Bryce Ford Wheaton just for a little bit. Bryce Ford Wheaton, you can't teach 6'4", 220 pounds in a 4.3 40, right? Also, he's showing that, he can be a reliable person on special teams, or that's what he plans to be, a guy that can, do the dirty work as well. And his best chances of making this team is if he can be a good gunner. Now, not saying that he is not a good wide receiver, but his chances of making the team has to be special teams. And when I'm looking at Allen Robinson and Miles Boykin, if I can get Bryce Ford Wheaton, I think the upside right now, as far as their careers go, Allen Robinson been in the league almost 12 years, I think, 11 years, something like that. Miles Boykin, I think he's been in the league 6-7 years or something like that. Bryce Ford Wheaton is in his second year. Again, what he can give you on special teams is one thing, but also what he can develop how he can develop as a wide receiver is why I'm leaning towards Bryce Ford Wheaton. And if you do have, if you do keep 7 wide receivers, Bryce Ford Wheaton probably is going to be on that list of guys that you keep, because I don't know if you can stash him on the practice squad again. Last year he had the ACL, so that made it easy for the New York Giants to be able to stash him. But this year, I don't know, because again, it's not too many guys that are 6'4", 220 pounds and running 4.3 40s in the league. And a lot of people, even though he's not truly developed yet, a lot of people will try to develop that skill set, from a guy that has those type of RAS scores and stuff like that. But that's going to be my review of the wide receiver room. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Please let me know if you guys what you guys think about how many wide receivers the New York Giants are going to keep once they drop it down to the 53. I'm curious to see what you guys think about that, because again, I'm thinking 6 to 7. I've seen people say 8, and I think 8 is pushing it again, especially with all the holes around on the rest of the team. But with that being said, I want to thank everybody for vibing with me. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And from one Giants fan to another, this is Big Dash Knows, Big Blue Nation. Let's go.